Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the North America Industry Update number 8 of our series that we've been running over this summer. I'm sure you all know who I am now, but my name is Chris Allis. I'm Head of Commercial Partnerships based in Los Angeles for the North America team. I'll be acting as your host for today's update. I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes talking through the agenda today and a couple of housekeeping items. So in terms of the agenda today, we're really excited to be continuing our updates with our state and territory partners. We are joined today by Rachel Telford, Director of International Marketing from Tourism Northern Territory. She is joining us from Darwin this morning. And then we'll also hear from our colleagues at Queensland. So Michael Branagh, Group Executive Global Marketing from Tourism Events Queensland, is joining us from the Gold Coast today. And they'll be providing an update on the latest that's happening in Queensland. In terms of questions, if you guys do have any questions for any of our panelists today, as always, we encourage you to pop those into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And once Michael has finished with his update, we'll come back to those at the end for you. But to kick off today, I'm pleased to welcome Jane Whitehead, our VP for Americas, and she just has a couple of words before we introduce our speakers. So hi, Jane.
Thank you, Chris, and hi everyone. Thanks very much for joining us again today for today's session. We have been holding these sessions more frequently over the past few weeks in the lead up to Australia Marketplace to give you the opportunity to hear more in-depth updates from our state and territory partners. So we really appreciate you making the time to join us for these sessions, and we're delighted to be joined by Rachel and Michael today. Yesterday, you may have seen that we launched our domestic campaign in Australia, Holiday Here this year. That campaign with Friends of Australia and ambassadors Hamish Blake and Zoe Foster Blake promotes to Australians the shared benefit of taking a holiday within Australia this year and helping support the industry while international restrictions remain in place. The goal of the campaign is to encourage Australians to take the sort of trip an international visitor would normally take and take a longer trip and really help support the industry through this time. If you'd like to see more about this campaign and what's going on, there's a lot of information on our corporate website, tourism.australia.com. So please take a look if you'd like to see more of the assets and the types of travel that are being promoted through that campaign. Also yesterday, our Managing Director, Pip Harrison, and the Minister for Tourism, Trade and Investment, Simon Birmingham, hosted a webinar with an update on the campaign. So that and all the webinars that Pip has been hosting with the industry here are also available on our corporate website. So I'll keep my comments today very brief because we will be giving an update next week to kick off Australia Marketplace, and I'll share more on our update on the market and Tourism Australia's activities on that update Tuesday next week, US time. You may also have seen that we have a great lineup of speakers for Australia Marketplace with various speakers sharing different perspectives on how to navigate the COVID crisis, including Brian Beaulieu from ITR Economics on the economic implications and outlook, an aviation panel, an update from our media agency on consumer trends, and also a keynote from Kathy Freeman, which is very exciting. So we look forward to having many of you join us for that event. We do have more than 270 sellers and more than 170 buyers signed up. So it promises to be a great event. So with that, I'd like to now hand over to Rachel to give an update on all developments in the Northern Territory. Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks for the opportunity. It is fantastic to be able to speak to you, and obviously we wish that it was face-to-face. I firstly wanted to acknowledge, I guess, the commitment that you have to Selling Australia and acknowledge the incredibly tough time that everyone is going through. And I guess what I wanted to convey is that we're really feeling that with you, and we're doing everything that we can to ensure our industry remains in business business and that they also see through the pandemic. Our partners are incredibly important to us, and for us, we really recognise the role that you play in helping us sell our destination. It's a complex destination, and we couldn't do it without you. So thanks for taking the time to be here today and to listen to the state of play in the Northern Territory. So before I move on to our update, I just wanted to, sorry, I just got this, make sure I've got your screen, Brianna. I just wanted to share with you a little bit of the creative that we generated as part of hosting the Bachelor franchise in the Northern Territory. The show aired in March. Unfortunately, the timing, it got gazumped by COVID, which had different plans for us, but certainly in the short time that we were able to capitalise on the program, we generated a lot of positive attention, consumers, trade and media. And this is, I guess, some of the creative that we started but were unable to continue, but it was a really great, fun spin on having The Bachelor in the NT. And now I'm going to move into showing you a promotional video to show the highlights of the Northern Territory and what makes it such a special place to experience culture, adventure, and you know, for your visitors that are coming to Australia.
Before there was the Outback, or Australia, or anything at all, there was the Dreamtime. You'll find its spirit under every rock, in every forest, and inside every flying, swimming, walking thing on Earth. It's the story of our creation. It's a connection we all feel to something bigger than the Outback. From a time long before time. In Australia's Northern Territory, every day is still in the Dreamtime. It's why we say, you haven't been down under till you've been out back. Before there was the Outback, or before there.
Okay, I needed to give you an update of where things are at in the Northern Territory in terms of COVID, and really we're in an incredibly fortunate position, and you know, I guess in some ways it's difficult to relate and you know, we just feel incredibly grateful that in the Northern Territory to date, we've only had 34 confirmed cases of COVID, and all of those have recovered, and at present we're COVID free. Obviously we're you know, we're very grateful for that position, and domestically we've been probably the envy of the nation in terms of that track record. We opened our internal borders on the 17th of July, and we've managed to keep COVID safe with the visitation that we've had. We've got very strict health measures in place. So for us, that's been an excellent opportunity to market the destination domestically, and we've done whatever we can, I guess, to support the businesses on ground in order to receive visitors. And all of those businesses, before they were able to reopen, was to have a COVID safe plan in place, and there are strict measures in place around social distancing and health and hygiene and screening of visitors. So for us, and I still say touch wood, that we're fortunate that we've been able to maintain a COVID-free destination for some time. Since the borders reopened, we've actually had over 110,000 visitors across into the Northern Territory, obviously from domestic destinations. There's a split there of, you know, road versus air, but the great thing about that is we're really starting to see the air capacity come back into our destination, which obviously is a positive step in moving towards opening up and you know, increasing our connectivity when the international borders reopen. saying that, the Northern Territory is incredibly reliant on external visitation from outside the territory. We've got a low population base, so it's difficult to substitute what we get from tourism. So for us, international visitation comprises over 30% of our total visitor expenditure. And I want to acknowledge that the US is absolutely key to that in terms of an inbound market. So we're very keen to welcome visitors back as soon as we can. Our international marketing is focused on that stakeholder engagement, public relations to keep that awareness strong, our social media and trade training. And I know Tricia and the team in the US, incredibly, I guess passionate about keeping that destination image alive. We have US Marketplace coming up, and there's 21 tourism operators from the Northern Territory participating in that event that you'll see in the coming weeks. So as I mentioned, because at the moment, obviously we're focused on where we can drive business, and that's intra-territory and interstate. And we have, and that's for the remainder of this financial year in terms of getting visitors into our businesses and keeping those businesses alive, ready to see through the recovery. And what I wanted to convey is, obviously these are examples from our domestic campaign, but with our destination being quite, low population, around 250,000 resident population, and geographically dispersed, and fantastic, awesome, beautiful natural landscapes. It sort of lends itself to being a great visitation place to visit as a COVID-safe holiday. So we're obviously playing on those strengths in terms of our advertising, and that's resonating really well with our domestic audiences. We're doing really well with the states that are able to travel here. And because of that, we're seeing this domestic aviation returning back, which is fantastic. And, on Friday, the Sydney flights recommenced into Uluru, which is absolutely fantastic. And obviously, that brings us to, we're now seeing most of our major markets return domestically into the Northern Territory, and we're looking forward to when we can welcome visitors from Victoria. But that aviation capacity is starting to grow again, which is fantastic. And then our government's been very proactive, and I guess we're very nimble in the territory in relation to be able to move quickly and get in there where we can support these businesses. So we've had business survival grants right from the outset back in March, direct assistances to businesses for cash flow. We've we're up to the second round of territory tourism vouchers to stimulate intra-territory travel, and that the next voucher campaign will go out at the beginning of November. And our domestic campaign launched in the beginning of October, which is called Summer on Sale. And it's the largest cooperative incentive-based campaign to bring our visitors, particularly over this traditional low season. So we're very focused about, coming into what is our tropical summer. It's traditionally a low season for us, and we're keen to ensure that we supplement that visitation that we've lost over that period. And I guess domestically, trade is incredibly important to us. We've really built in some early conversion-based campaigns to stimulate travel from the markets and the consumers that are able to enter the NT. And I guess what I wanted to highlight here is that in the international restart, working with our partners is going to be key to recovery. And we see you as a key part of that. And then sort of coming towards the end here of the presentation, but just to let you know that Tricia from our team in the US had said, look, the trade partners are incredibly keen to know about how our product's going on ground, and are there products that are falling over, what's going to be there at the end of the pandemic. To be honest, so far we've got these multiple support programs in place assisting these businesses to operate. We've also got adaptation support. So there's a lot of diversification of business. The tour operator segment is probably the worst impacted, and through our voucher campaigns, we're encouraging tour operators to package with accommodation providers or restaurants, etc., to value add and selling those packages to consumers via the incentive programs. At present, I couldn't say, like, in terms of businesses that are operating or not operating, because we're coming into the low season, some businesses go into hibernation anyway. That's a standard thing in our destination. All the products that that we have working internationally are continuing to engage. So as yet, we haven't seen any significant fallout that product isn't going to be there at the other side, but obviously we don't have a crystal ball on that. I think with the Sydney flights recommencing into Uluru last Friday, we're really starting to see the volume back to our destinations, and we're really hopeful that we're at the turning point. And the good news story out of this is we've seen new product come online. So I've just included an image of the jet ski tour business that started on Darwin Harbour. We've got things like helicopters that are moving into scenic flights out of agribusiness. So we've seen some new product innovation, which has been great as well. So the signs are really encouraging at the moment, and we're just hoping that obviously with our support programs in place that these businesses will see through the low season. And that really concludes the presentation, but I just wanted to again reiterate that we really value your support, and we can't wait for you and your customers to come back to Australia's Northern Territory.
That's awesome, Rachel. Thank you so much. That was a great update, and it's great to hear some positivity from a domestic perspective, and great to see those domestic flights returning from Sydney. I'm sure that'll be awesome for Northern Territory and all of your partners there. So before I introduce Michael, I just want to remind everyone, if you do have any questions for Rachel or Michael or Jane, please put them in the Q&A box at the bottom, and then we'll revisit those at the end once we've heard from Michael. So with that, I'm just going to introduce now Michael Brana. Michael is Group Executive Director of Global Marketing for Tourism Events Queensland, and is joining us from Gold Coast today, I believe. So welcome, Michael.
Thank you, and it's wonderful to be here as well. So good evening, everybody, and good morning to people in Australia. It's a beautiful morning here in Queensland. So we really are very hopeful that we can start to welcome as many of you possible back into our destination when the time is right. It has certainly been an incredibly challenging period for us all, and reflected the sentiment of Rachel in terms of our desire to continue and have support for our industry and from our key partners in the Americas in recent times, and also in times to come. It's really important to the recovery of our industry here in Queensland, and there's a lot of optimism in the state. We're in a very fortunate position where we are as open as a state, and our operators are in business, and they're doing everything they can to remain in business at this particular point in time, and all going well. There's a sense that green shoots are starting to appear, and we are on the road to recovery. I'm just trying to progress the slide, but it just won't move at the moment. There we go. So where do we sit at the moment? I guess is a really really key question. Queensland has, like many other parts of the world, been impacted by COVID. We are in the fortunate position at the moment where we only have 2 active cases of COVID-19 in the state of Queensland, and we've gone several days now without any new reported cases, which is great news. And keeping Queenslanders safe has been a key priority of our government. and a key focus has been to ensure that not only are Queenslanders safe, but also that we're doing our best to ensure that the economy of the state is able to recover and is able to continue to grow. The impact on our tourism industry has been absolutely devastating and vast. Approximately $9.4 billion worth of economic revenue has fallen out of the industry in recent months, and we estimate there's around 70,000 tourism-related jobs that have been impacted as a consequence of COVID-19, and that is something that is a key focus for us now as we move into recovery, is making sure that we can get Queenslanders back into jobs, get Queenslanders back into the industry, and really supporting our growth. Aviation wise, the number of seats lost, as you can see there, has been absolutely significant as well. Over 12 million seats in total have been lost since 2019. And as a state that is really reliant on events, there's been an incredible, and events to drive tourism outcomes for us. There's been an incredibly, big impact on our events portfolio as well, with, events supported by Tourism and Events Queensland, over 187 of them having been affected to date. And on a travel restriction point of view, we consider ourselves fortunate as Queenslanders at this particular point in time that our state is open, but we do have restrictions and we do have limitations in place. Queensland is open. Our borders are open to South Australia, the ACT, Tasmania, Northern Territory, Western Australia, and a border zone within New South Wales. But that is not necessarily a reciprocal arrangement at this particular point in time. But certainly our key focus has been about getting Queenslanders, like Rachel talked about with the Northern Territory. Our key focus has been getting Queenslanders to explore Queensland and continue to support and help our Queensland industry recover. Our biggest market domestically is the Sydney and Greater New South Wales region, and at this point in time our borders do remain closed to that region, but we are optimistic and hopeful that in the coming weeks a decision will be made to allow Sydney-siders and the Greater New South Wales region to start travelling into Queensland as well, which will be another great shot in the arm for our tourism industry when it comes to recovering. Our borders continue to remain closed to Victoria. Victoria has currently been declared a COVID hotspot, and again, though, we remain hopeful that in the weeks and months to come, that situation with Victoria will be reviewed, and again, our border will reopen to Victoria and allow Victorians to re-enter Queensland and help again with that recovery of our industry. Internationally, it's not a positive story right now. Our international borders remain closed. We are hopeful of some emerging opportunities, some bubbles as such to form from an international perspective. New Zealand has been highlighted as the first of those international travel bubble opportunities. The Pacific Islands, some of the closest Southeast Asian nations in the short term as well. It's a watch and see case. We don't make decisions around borders as a state. It's a federal issue, and all we've been doing is actively encouraging the federal government to look at the international border situation and look to opportunities to see those borders open in weeks and months to come. And obviously our team in North America through Lee and his team will keep you all informed about that situation, and the team at Tourism Australia as it changes. We've been fortunate from a domestic aviation point of view. We have been significantly hit, but Queensland itself is a large state which has a large intrastate aviation network as well. And that has enabled a number of our aviation routes to remain open. And whilst the capacity is significantly impacted in comparison to the same time last year, we again see some positive stories in respect to our intrastate aviation situation. We're only at 35% capacity compared to the same period last year, but we're seeing growth in that, and it's currently at its highest since the 23rd of March 2020. And one of the positive and really interesting stories around that is that the Brisbane to Cairns aviation route is now the busiest aviation route in the country, which is something that I guess we would have never seen or never predicted, but one of those quirky outcomes of COVID-19 as well. But we are seeing really strong support for those aviation routes in the interstate perspective that are open, and we're looking at a forecast by December of having 50 to 60% of our pre-COVID capacity back up and operational again within Queensland, which is great news. And we are very thankful to the support that we've received and from our both federal and state governments in respect to assisting the ongoing recovery of our aviation networks and capacity. We have some aviation route recovery programs in place focused on both intrastate recovery and also interstate recovery to support key ports into Queensland and secure that interstate aviation network access as we move forward as well. And it's really important for us that we do that. It's really important that travellers, to support the recovery of the industry, that travellers can get to Queensland. It's a big state, and that they can move around Queensland when they're here as well. Our industry story is a little bit of a tale of two halves in many respects. Most Queensland tourism operators are open. They are welcoming guests and they are trading, but we are really seeing that story of two halves and a bit of a two-speed economy story here. Operators in the north of Queensland, particularly in the tropical north, have been the hardest hit, impacted traditionally and impacted by that aviation access, and also by the reliance on both international and interstate visitation to really provide them with the lion's share of their visitation, whereas those operators in the southeast corner of Queensland, in Brisbane, the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast, the Scenic Rim area, and southern Queensland country, and as far north as the Fraser Coast and the Gladstone region, are faring a lot better. Driven by the drive market, driven by the strong population base out of southeast Queensland, who will get out there and are exploring Queensland and supporting the Queensland tourism industry at this time. And in fact, some parts of the region, southeast Queensland region, are reporting this to be one of their best years ever, which is a great story in the context of everything else going on at this moment. And that's really driven by the local support that they're receiving, which is great news. From a TEQ perspective, we're doing a lot of things as well to really support the industry. Our partnerships team have really been supporting all of the different regions and focusing on making sure that we are talking to the operators, talking to the product, helping them access the assistance which is available, helping them understand the steps that they may need to take to pivot their business at this particular point in time. For many of those operators who have been reliant on an international clientele as their key source of business in up to this point in time, helping those operators transition to focusing on the domestic market and how to deliver and cater and orient their experiences towards that domestic clientele has been a key area of the work we've been doing with them, and making sure that they do have those access paths into all those different support networks that are available. We have also been leading the tourism and events response teams and working closely with our state government and our federal partners, and also Tourism Australia in respect to the support and the assistance that's there for our operators. We want a healthy industry coming out of the back of this. We want to ensure that there's many of those operators that will continue to remain trading, will be open. We'll look to how they respond from an experience design point of view and experience development point of view to be really fit for the future and to be strong and ready to welcome international guests back when they can do so. We have also introduced our domestic campaign activity, our Good to Go campaign. And that domestic campaign activity has really focused on working on two fronts. Good to Go has been about providing a message to consumers that in the intrastate market, Queensland is good to go. It's open, and Queenslanders can get out there and experience everything that Queensland has to offer. But it's also had a COVID-safe side to it as well. We've worked with industry around the recognition that they need to be delivering the right message to potential travellers as well, letting those travellers know that when an operator says they're good to go, it means that they are open, it means that they're ready to welcome guests, but it also means that they have a COVID-safe plan in place and can provide that health and reassurance messaging that travellers will be looking for and are looking for now. And we've been very focused on securing events content as well as part of our recovery efforts. In this incredibly unusual environment that we are living in at the moment, one of the benefits of Queensland being seen as a safe and secure destination, and a destination which is still relatively open, has been the opportunity for Queensland to secure some major domestic sporting codes to base themselves here in Queensland. Event attendance, people are still able to attend events in Queensland. We're able to host crowds in stadiums and venues, and on that basis, we've been able to ensure that several of our major sporting codes have had the opportunity to relocate to Queensland, and that's been great for our industry as well, because when large sporting teams travel and the entourages that travel with them, they need hotel rooms. They do things when they're in destination, and they support the local economy as well. So that's been a really strong boost for us at this particular point in time. Also important has been ensuring that we have a robust pipeline of new hotels, experiences and product to look forward to when we can welcome travellers again, and really to reflect the confidence in our industry and the resilience of our industry post-COVID-19 as well. Whilst many operators have actually looked to this time to do, whilst they have potentially been closed and had lower guest numbers than traditional, they've actually taken this time to look to their product to either refurbish, to refit, to do some of that maintenance work that they maybe haven't been able to keep up with in more busier times. And that gives us great confidence that coming out of COVID-19, our industry will be really ready to reflect the needs of the travellers moving forward. And there's been some great new product stories come about as a consequence of that. Some of those include the opening of Flynn, a new Crystal Book Collection hotel in Cairns, due to open in November, so not very far away. That opening was delayed. They were due to open several months ago, but obviously due to COVID-19, they had to relook at those timings. But what we're talking about here is an amazing 5-star property right on the Esplanade in Cairns. 3 floors of spectacular restaurants and bars and entertainment areas, beautiful spa facilities on site. And for a destination like Cairns, having destination hotels and product is really important. And the Crystal Book Collection that has opened up in Cairns over the last couple of years with the Flynn, with the Riley, and also with the Bailey is great news for that destination up there. On the Whitsundays, the opening of Reef Suites, our first underwater accommodation, has also been incredibly well received and a great hit with travellers. Right on the Great Barrier Reef, this private, all-inclusive underwater sleeping experience and the opportunity to dine under the stars is just exactly the type of medicine that I think people are looking for at the moment. And the operators of Reef Suites are certainly talking to demand both domestically and from international markets before COVID-19, exceeding their expectations, and it's a wonderful experience. What better way to see the Great Barrier Reef than sleeping underneath it and being immersed in the majesty and the beauty of the Great Barrier Reef. So an amazing product there. And also some new different types of experiences on the Great Barrier Reef as well. Wilson Island, glamping experiences on the southern Great Barrier Reef, just near Heron Island, an adult-only private hideaway. I think the island itself only sleeps around 16 guests, so it is a real intimate experience, essentially a tropical island to yourself with really, really well equipped and beautiful accommodation. Step out of your glamping tent, and dive into the waters of the Great Barrier Reef. It really is a one-of-a-kind getaway, and incredibly sustainability focused in terms of its operation as well. You know, really focused on making sure that the impact of the product on the environment is absolutely minimum, and that, you know, absolutely all sustainability measures are in place around that. So it gives the traveller that sense that, you know, they have escaped to this amazing location in the middle of the Great Barrier Reef. But for something different as well, from a glamping point of view, you know, the opening of the Mitchell Grass Retreat in outback Queensland, out near Longreach, has also, you know, been incredibly well received. People who have been out there really just talk to not only the amazing product that has been created, but also the incredible hospitality and that authentic outback experience that that can be had. Again, you know, built with a real low environmental impact point of view, and all the facilities you could want on site, including an incredible saltwater pool, which, you know, lets you, you know, immerse yourself after a great day in the outback, and really, you know, relax when you're out there. And from an experience point of view, you know, really looking to what is unique about Queensland from an Indigenous culture point of view. You know, we have a unique story when it comes to Australia's Indigenous culture to tell. You know, we are the only destination that brings, you know, two unique Indigenous cultures together in terms of the Aboriginal and the Torres Strait Islanders, and we've been working really hard during this period to you know, really, you know, develop and create a number of new Indigenous experiences. And this is just one example of one which will be opening soon, which provide a range of informative and interactive experiences, and, you know, guided by, you know, Indigenous people from surrounded tribes, help travellers really immerse themselves in the unique Queensland Indigenous culture. This year has been, you know, named the Year of Indigenous Tourism here in Queensland. With that has come some additional government support money to really help grow and develop our Indigenous tourism product and experiences, and this is just a great example of how that's come to life. From a marketing point of view, you know, as I talked earlier on, our key focus has been about, you know, supporting the domestic recovery, getting Queenslanders to get out there and experience Queensland like they never have before, making sure, similar to the way Tourism Australia are looking at it as well, to get Australians to travel like they would be international travellers here in Australia, to support those products that are more internationally focused, and to not just have one trip, but to have many trips during this time when they can't travel internationally as well. And with that comes our shift, which is towards a new brand purpose for Queensland, and that brand purpose for Queensland is our belief that in a post-COVID-19 world, you know, travel should be for good. You know, how do we use travel for not only the good of you as a person, but for the good of the world as well? We know it's good. You know, you don't have to go far, and you don't have to talk to too many people to understand the impact that travel can have on people, and also the impact that travel can have on the world. So our ambition and our goal as a destination is to really capture the essence of travel for good in our marketing and communication plans moving forward, to celebrate the way in which travel can have that positive impact on people and positive impact on the planet, and to really demonstrate that through transformational travel experiences, you know, people can be changed as a consequence of travel as well. We have that new brand direction in work at the moment, and, you know, we're looking forward to launching our new brand platform around the idea of travel for good in the months to come, to really help support our recovery from COVID-19. Our marketing priorities, you know, really have to be where we can generate economic impact for our industry at the moment. Currently, that means we have a real strong focus on intrastate and interstate marketing activity. Internationally, you know, our key focus, as hopefully you're experiencing with our teams in the Americas with Lee and the rest of the team there, is keeping connected, making sure that we're in touch with you, making sure that we're keeping you informed, making sure that we're keeping you updated, and making sure that we're keeping you engaged and really, you know, maximizing the opportunity to talk to consumers through you know, own channels such as social media, PR, publicity, and media at this particular point in time. and those relationships with the industry, really maintaining the engagement we have with you through this time, and helping you access and understand, what's going to happen in Queensland, when are those opportunities to really start to dial up and ramp up activity again, and how can we make sure that you have as much knowledge, as much insight around the opportunities to attract visitors back to Queensland when the time is right as well. And our event focus is based on building and growing confidence. One thing that we've seen and one thing that we know is if we can get people back out and about and experiencing not only destinations but events, then it gives them the confidence to do more. And therefore, putting on more events across Queensland at both a community, a statewide, and at a national and international level is going to be really important for us to help with our recovery and give people the confidence to get back out there and start doing things again. Here's just an example of some of those creative examples that we've had in market in recent months. Very much, in somewhat a similar vein to the work that Rachel was talking about from Northern Territory. A big focus on messaging that makes sure that people feel that it is safe to get out there and travel again through that good to go messaging, encouraging dispersal, encouraging people to get out there and experience the state like they never have before, to find those new experiences, to do the things that have potentially been on their bucket list but they've never had the opportunity to do, but to also ultimately support the industry at this particular point in time to make sure that that industry can continue to trade, that industry can be open, and that the industry does feel like they have hope and optimism for the future as well. And at a tactical level, then working really closely with all of our major trade partners to make sure that those opportunities to drive conversion are there as well. Putting out very, very, very competitive offers, incentives and deals into the marketplace that make travel an achievable objective for people, and make sure that people can disperse and get out there and do as many things as possible during this time. We have our Christmas period coming up, and we're conscious that generally a number of Queenslanders, a number of Australians will look to travel internationally during that period of time. So our activity will really be focused on converting that international intent, which can't happen at the moment, into domestic visitation, to make sure that our industry has a really strong Christmas and summer period, which for some parts of Queensland is generally a little bit of a downtime as well. So doing absolutely our best to make sure that what is traditionally a slow period is busier than ever in some parts of the state, and other parts of the state, which always do seem to be really busy, have the opportunity to really maximise and capitalise on that demand as well. And one of the unique outcomes of this particular period, COVID-19, is just the quirky and interesting things that happen. The AFL Grand Final, I'm not sure how many people are fans of Australian football, but for those that are, would recognise the fact that the AFL Grand Final, the biggest sporting event of the year in Australia, is traditionally held in Melbourne. And due to COVID-19, that is unable to take place this year. Melbourne is the home of AFL. Melbourne is the home of the AFL Grand Final. But we're in this incredible position where on October the 24th, so in 2 weeks' time, Queensland will host Australia's biggest sporting event of the year, the AFL Grand Final, here in Brisbane. We're optimistic that a Brisbane team, the Brisbane Lions, will make the event and make the final, which would be even better to play a home final in your home state. But we are looking to leverage and obviously use that opportunity of the AFL Grand Final in Brisbane to capture the attention of our Australian audiences and really show them what Queensland is all about. But there is also the opportunity for people in North America to look at the event as well. If you can access an AFL pass for about $23, I believe, and that gives you access to watch the event if you wanted to. And I do know that even some of the cable channels in the US will also broadcast the event as well. But if you want to see a very different sporting event held in a very different city, then really encourage you to tune in and watch the AFL Grand Final in Queensland. It will be a one-of-a-kind event. It's potentially the only time in history or in the future that event will shift outside of Melbourne. So we feel proud to be custodians of the event and caretakers of the event this year, and look forward to doing an absolutely amazing job of it for the Australian Football League. So thank you for the opportunity to address you this morning and talk to you. It's been a pleasure. Please, I look forward to the opportunity to connect with you in the future, but also, you know, the support of our team there in the North Americas, and feel free to reach out to them and connect with them should you have any other questions or needs during this time. Thank you.
Cool, that's great, Michael. Thank you so much. That was a great update from Queensland, and great to see some of that new product in development and coming online soon. That when our travellers can get back down to Australia, there's some new and exciting stuff there, which is excellent. So, cool. Well, we're going to round off with any questions. So we've got Jane and Rachel back. We've got a couple of minutes, so if there's any questions from anyone, please pop them in the Q&A box. But I just wanted to kick off with a question for Rachel, because you didn't really cover it in your presentation, but just curious on the perspectives from Northern Territory and the opportunity of the travel safe corridor opening up with New Zealand, because obviously Northern Territory is part of that initial opportunity. So I don't know if you want to share anything about that or talk about how you guys feel about the opportunity for Northern Territory.
Thank you. Yes, of course, any opportunity that we can to promote tourism, we will. So, yeah, Northern Territory is fortunate to be included in that travel bubble with New Zealand. It is only unilateral, like it's one direction. So for us, it's obviously being able to promote to New Zealanders to come to the Northern Territory, but it's not reciprocal. And the other thing that is still required is returning residents to New Zealand will need to quarantine for 2 weeks. So it's not as an attractive proposition as we would like to be promoting, but we'll certainly do our best to promote to New Zealanders to come here. We are hopeful with the upcoming election in New Zealand that post the election that we may see that two-directional travel, which will make all the difference. So we sort of feel that it's not that far away before we'll see a lot more open border policy with New Zealand. And I think that's when the real benefits will come for all of us, for all the states.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. Thank you. Michael, and a question for you. So I think you touched on particularly the impact of your operators in in Queensland. What's the optimism or sentiment just broadly from your industry at the moment in terms of their outlook for the short and mid-term future? What's the sentiment that you're seeing from your operators there?
Yeah, I think like many operators through COVID-19, we've seen waves of positivity and negativity, and at the moment, I think we're riding a wave of genuine optimism and positivity towards what the future holds. The work that we've done to really encourage and get Queenslanders to get out there and explore Queensland has been great for operators, and as I said, we've seen some operators in some regions report that they've had some of their busiest trading periods ever, which is fantastic and a great gesture of the spirit of what Queenslanders are about as people in respect to the support for Queensland. With the optimism now turning to the opening of interstate borders, I think that's giving our operators hope, and that's giving our operators a real feeling that there is, good opportunity on the horizon. And with the New South Wales border predicted to open in the coming weeks, and further interstate borders beyond that, that means that we can get back to a sustainable industry. Within a relatively short period of time. It's going to take effort, it's going to take work, but it's going to happen. And that's the message that we're giving to operators, and the support we're giving to operators as well, particularly around the experience design and experience development piece, where we've been working on a program and a toolkit which will help operators understand and guide them through potentially some of the things that can be done to really improve that, not only that customer experience point of view, but that COVID safe travel experience into the future, that then becomes a tool for them to work with from a marketing point of view with their own potential travelers to help boost and grow their business as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Rachel, would you have anything to add to that from Northern Territory, or is it fairly similar?
I really think their sentiment's similar. Yeah, it's a similar position. So yeah, nothing further to add really.
Cool, awesome. Well, we haven't had any questions come through from the audience, so we'll just take that as being that your updates were so informative that people don't have any other questions. So we'll probably wrap things up there. So thanks again, Rachel and Michael, for joining us today. We really appreciate that. We will be making a copy of the presentation and a recording of the webinar available afterwards for anyone that wants to view it as well. So before I wrap up, just want to cover a couple of other things off. So as Jane mentioned at the beginning of the call, next week we're really excited and looking forward to Australian Marketplace. That will kick off officially on Wednesday for us with a full programme of activity. But just wanted to remind everyone, we said this a couple of times now, but we will kick off the entire Marketplace programme with a broader kind of market update and briefing from the Tourism Australia North America team. So that will take place on Tuesday next week. That will be at 4 p.m. Pacific, so it's a little bit later than we've been running these updates, purely because we will also be inviting our industry partners from Australia to come and listen to that as well. So we're just trying to make the time more affable for both time zones. So 4 p.m. Pacific. Any of you that are joining the Australia Marketplace programme, you will not need to register separately for this update. You can access it through the event platform, details of which will be coming to you later. For any of you that are not joining the Australia Marketplace event next week and want to join this update, we'll be sending out an invitation to those folks tomorrow. So please look out for that one. And then I guess with that, I think that's all we have for you guys today. So thanks again so much for joining us. Look out for our invite for our next update that will come to you guys that are not currently enrolled in Marketplace tomorrow. But in the meantime, we continue to wish you and your families safe and well, and we look forward to seeing many of you virtually for Australian Marketplace next week. And have a great week, everyone. Thank you.